In the wake of Kamala Harris's decisive loss, the Democratic Party seems to be doing some soul searching to figure out what exactly went wrong. Here to discuss his vision for the future of the Democratic Party is Progressive Congressman from California, Khanna. Congressman, thank you so much for joining me. It's such an honor to be able to talk to you about this.
Oh, I'm honored to be on.
So, in your own words, tell us what you think the lesson from Donald Trump's victory is for Democrats.
We need to be the party of change. We need to understand the anger that people have at a political and economic system that hasn't worked for them. Politicians sold people's jobs overseas for the cheapest wages. They hollowed out industry. People don't have high paying jobs in many abandoned communities. They're upset with insurance companies denying claims. We didn't speak to the frustration of the political and economic system that many middle and working class Americans have.
You are so eloquent on this. I'm wondering who among your fellow progressives also gets it? Who doesn't get it? Give us the skinny.
Well, I don't think it's candidly my eloquence. I think I've just spent a lot of time in places like Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Johnstown, Pennsylvania, Youngstown, Ohio, Downriver, Michigan. I've heard the stories of people like Chansey, who had was working in Masterlock, making $30 an hour, and in 2022, that factory goes to Mexico because of NAFTA, and he loses his job. And today he's making $18 to $20, and he doesn't think that this global economic system that benefits multinational corporations has been benefiting him. And I think what we need to do is go out into these communities and listen. I mean, obviously, Bernie Sanders has done that. You have folks in the Chris Deluzio has done that. Pat Ryan. But we need more people in these communities. Joe Neguse is another one that comes to mind.
What's amazing about the fact that you have made these trips is that you represent, I believe, the wealthiest district in America, in Silicon Valley. And so I guess my question is, facing down what does seem to be the case, which is that the great divide in America is not political and it's not racial, but it is actually that class divide. How do you get more members of your side to recognize who they are speaking to and who they're not speaking to?
Well, I represent, as you pointed out, the wealthiest district in the world, $12 trillion of value. Apple, Google, Intel, NVIDIA, Tesla. But it's also a huge manufacturing hub for America. It's one of the top three manufacturing hubs. And when I was in the Obama administration as a Deputy Assistant Secretary of Commerce, I was going around the country and I said, we are losing manufacturing across America. It is wrong. And we can't have this wealth and income divide. You can't have $12 trillion piled up in my district and the hollowing out of a lot of other parts of the country. It's the divide in income and wealth that is tearing this country apart. And actually, we can mobilize the new industrialists, the new technology leaders to help reindustrialize the country. So that is the mantra I have been trying to say to the Democratic Party. We have to be the party of building the future and rebuilding the middle class and working class.
One thing that I do worry about is that while I'm so happy to see this return to economic populism from Democrats, I worry that the model for economic populism that they're embracing is not actually the one that working class people are asking for. And what I mean by that is when you ask working class people what they're looking for from economic populism, they actually are not interested so much in redistribution as they are in protectionism. What they want is a strong border. They like tariffs. They want trade and the supply of labor through immigration to protect their jobs. But when I see this on the left, it's often, actually ironically, from elites on the left, the donor class on the left, who want more of the redistribution model. They want to raise taxes and redistribute that to working class people. On the social issues, the donor class on the Democratic side is very far left and out of touch with the working class. They do embrace sort of the open borders model. They do embrace the more radical elements of the trans agenda. My question to you is, do you really believe the Democratic Party is going to be able to say to its donor wing, we're not going to represent you anymore. We need to go back to the voters?
I think what most working class folks that I meet, one is a high paying job that can support their families.
Mm-hmm.
And then they want to know what a politician is going to do to get those high paying jobs. Now, of course, they want a secure border, but my view is even if you solve the immigration issue here, that's not going to put up new steel factories in Pennsylvania. That's not going to put up new aluminum factories. That's not going to make sure that we're making pills that Americans consume and aren't getting them from China. Even if you didn't have undocumented immigrants, that's not going to solve that issue. And I think most people get that. What they don't want is a handout. They don't want just taxing wealth and then giving them a check. But what they do want is America to make an investment in 100,000 new electricians, plumbers, machinists, a skilled workforce. What they do want is Americans to make an investment in scaling new factories. What they do want is Americans to mobilize technology, government, and unions. Many are proud of unions to build America. And that, I think, is obligation of the Democratic Party to make that message. And they also want fair wages. I mean, why is it that our minimum wage is stuck at $7.25? And when you move that up, everyone does better. And why is it that Mary Barra gets profits based on a company performance, but an auto worker doesn't get stock in the company? It's not unfair. So I think the Democrats have a actual vision to get people to earn more money and have higher paying jobs. And it's not a redistribution vision, it's a pre-distribution vision.
Do you agree with my assessment that the donor class on the left of the Democratic Party is far to the left of where the voter base, the working class voter base is?
You know, honestly, I've never paid much attention to the donor class. I think the job of the politician is to raise resources and tell the donor class where they need to go. And if they don't want to contribute, then tell them, go take your money and go get it somewhere else. We're not losing elections because we don't raise enough money. We're losing elections because we don't have a compelling enough vision for the country. I've had people all the time, donors say totally idiotic things, and I said, go take your money and support someone else. I don't need it.
That's so well put. I want to draw attention to something you posted on Twitter. We're talking a lot about healthcare now in the wake of this horrific shooting of this United Healthcare CEO. Of course, the shooting was a horror and totally unjustifiable. But of course, this has open questions about our failing healthcare system. You put out 3 really good ideas that I feel could be totally nonpartisan and immediately implemented that would help our healthcare system immediately provide better care to struggling Americans. Can you tell us about those 3 proposals that you put out there?
Well, one is if a doctor prescribes something, then it should be covered and Medicare covers it. I think that's a pretty reasonable thing. United Healthcare or Aetna, they should cover something if a doctor says it and Medicare would cover it. 2, let's have a cap on out-of-pocket costs for folks. And 3, let's make sure that all this AI that's being developed in my district, that it's not used to automatically deny people's claims, that there has to be human judgment behind it. Those seem to be common sense ideas that I hope we could have bipartisan support for.
I completely agree. You also did call for Medicare for all in that video, which I thought was really smart to say sort of here are the stuff that we can all agree on, but also to my left flank, I'm still on board with this idea. Was that an intentional move to sort of speak to both sides and say, look, I can see it from both points of view?
Well, look, I think we have to be clear about our North Star. And for me, that is Medicare for all, because in my view, it has less administrative costs than the private insurance, 2% compared to 18%, and can negotiate down prices and can make sure that every doctor is in network. But we also can't overpromise things to people. And I think if you just say Medicare for all and they say, well, you've got 100 co-sponsors in the House, but you don't have Republicans on board and you're not going to get it through a Senate, then you set false expectations and people are disappointed. So I think you have to say, here's my North Star, but here is what we can do right now to make improvements.
And final question, because I know you've got to go. Senator Padilla of California introduced a companion bill to the Guaranteeing Truckers Overtime Act. Truckers are exempt from overtime pay because of the Fair Labor Standards Act from 1936. It exempted them because they were the highest paid blue-collar workers at the time. Now they get screwed, basically, because they don't get paid overtime. Is that something that you would be willing to pursue in Congress, the Guaranteeing Truckers Overtime Act?
Absolutely. We should be paying truckers overtime. We should be making sure that truckers are still driving on trucks and you're not just moving to self-driving trucks. I worked with Sean O'Brien and the Teamsters to stand up for that. One of the biggest mistakes of the Democratic Party was not having Sean O'Brien speak at the Democratic Convention. He's a great labor leader, and I'm supporting the new labor secretary that Trump has appointed because Sean and others have vouched for her as a strong supporter of labor. But Democrats need to be for labor, and truckers are at the heart of it.
Thank you so much. God bless you, Congressman.
Thank you. God bless.